Good afternoon, and welcome to episode 3 of the Schaefer Files. Today, we're going to talk about surveillance gone wrong. Now, I've noticed a couple of things on these videos before we get into today's subject matter. The initial ground rules video was about just over 4 minutes, received multiple views, and the last one regarding background checks, that was a little more closer to 20 minutes and hasn't received the same amount of attention. So I'm going to try and keep this well below the 15-minute mark, maybe even below 10 minutes. So we're not going to get a whole lot of stories on this, but these are some things that have happened. First things first, getting burned. Getting burned is something that happens to everybody in the investigations field. It can range from a simple wave from your subject to having the police called. Any investigator who says they have never been burned either really isn't a surveillance investigator or they're lying to you. Some stories about being burned. Now, let's see here. I think probably one of the more memorable ones would have been a cheating spouse case that we worked a few years ago, and we followed female subject around as she did her grocery shopping and went to the gym and so on and so forth, and really nothing was going on for the longest time. And then out of nowhere, she left a local department store, drove a couple miles north, and went into a apartment complex. After a certain point, actually, I say we, I was the investigator. After a certain point, I went into the complex as well, located her vehicle, and set up where I could see her vehicle and see the suspect apartment. And we say suspect because we suspect that that individual is and that individual's apartment is where she's coming from and who she's with. It's not like entirely like you would see on TV with criminal justice and criminal police dramas where a suspect suspected of committing a crime. It is, but it's not. And on this particular occasion, back to the story at hand, after locating where her vehicle was and determining exactly where the apartment in question was, I backed in, set everything up, got ready to videotape her coming out. Now keep in mind, when I'm on surveillance, I have dark tinted windows, curtains or shades or any number of things to block the fact that I'm actually there. There is no reason why she should know I'm there, or he, if that, as the case may be on a given day. However, on this particular case, the client was just a little too forthcoming in the information. So while I'm sitting in this car, completely concealed, except for a section where I have my video camera sticking out, the subject walks clear out of the apartment, walks along towards the direction of my car just before she turns off to go to hers, and all of a sudden she just stops, looks right at my car, and boom! Up comes the shirt, then down comes the shirt, then up comes the middle finger, excuse the gesture. To say the least, I was burned. Another instance of being burned, surveillance going wrong, is following a guy on a workers' comp case in, we'll just say, one of the major cities in Texas. I had been on him for about half a day. Unbeknownst to me, other investigators had been on him for days. And I was investigator number 3. So I follow him around. And I found out about this, by the way, about being investigator number 3 well after the fact. I'm following him around, going to the bank, going to the grocery store, stopping to get lunch, so on and so forth. And at some point, he starts going really slow. And we have certain rules with investigations, in particular surveillance. You're not burned unless they shoot at you, shoot the finger at you, call the police and the police tell you as much, or something to that effect. And there are a few others in between. Previous story would definitely qualify as one of those others not listed. But there are counter surveillance measures that people take, and one of them is being very slow along the street or staying put at a stoplight that's turned green or a stop sign too long. Well, after probably about 3 blocks from one particular destination of my claimant driving way too slow, I played it safe and went around him. Common thing that happens, you go around him, chances are the individual is going to be going the same direction as he or she was when you last saw them, so it's a safe bet. And then at a certain point, you pull in and you hide yourself amongst a few vehicles. Your claimant or subject passes you, you get back behind them. More often than not, they're none the wiser unless you're really right up on their rear end. Well, it didn't quite work that way. I went through a stop sign, started around the curb, was about to pull into the parking lot when I glanced in my rear view mirror and I saw the claimant turn left. Problem. I turn around, speed up as fast as I can to the intersection, go to now the right, claimant's left at the time that he turned left, and he's gone. Okay. So we hold off, we canvass the area at first, don't find him, hold off, report to the client. Client says, you know what, take a 2-hour break, go back to the house. Fine, perfect. Go back to the house a couple of hours later, his car's there, he returned home, golden. Then he comes out and he's smoking a cigarette. Well, I thought I was far enough behind, and I was kind of new to the investigations field at that time, so mea culpa, I didn't have quite as much to conceal myself in the vehicle as I should have. One less window shade, one less curtain, and the sunlight hits just right, and all of a sudden the whole world knows you're in the car. So I'm sitting there for a little bit, and of course he recognizes my vehicle. I don't know he's recognized my vehicle. I don't even know that he spotted a vehicle or that he was being followed before. But as he's smoking a cigarette outside, his son comes out, and I see him lean forward like he's talking to his son, and I've got the camera going because he's standing. He's standing, and part of the injury is knee problems, if memory serves me correct on this particular file. Well, he leans over and says something to his son. His son goes inside, and I think nothing of it. He's looking my direction, but there's multiple vehicles where I am, multiple houses with multiple vehicles where I am, nothing to be suspicious of. Then the son comes back outside, and I catch this guy on film taking a camera from his son, pointing the camera at my surveillance vehicle and taking photographs. To say the least, I was burned. Okay, we're about 8 minutes on this. I think we've got time for a couple of more. So let's see here. I'll give you another cheating spouse one. I was on a lady a few years ago, and we went to downtown Dallas. I'll go ahead and give you the city. We went to downtown Dallas. Now, anybody that's familiar with Dallas, there are parking garages, and then there's side areas where you can parallel park next to meters. And on this particular occasion, this lady did not take a parking garage, but instead parked at a meter. Well, there were no other areas to park, no other meters, nothing where you could see where her vehicle was. This one's not as humorous as the previous one. She didn't take photos of me. She didn't, we didn't get flashed or anything of that nature. This one just is surveillance gone wrong. In situations like that, you have no choice but to do what is rolling surveillance, rolling spot checks. You drive around the corner, back around, and you can either get out of the car and walk, or you can just keep driving around, and you take notice of the vehicle, make sure it's in the same place. Once in a while, take a time shot to prove you're still in the area and the vehicle is there, and you're basically driving in a circle or a square, if you will, depending on the setup in the area downtown. Well, probably about 4 or 5 turns around, and loops around rather, her vehicle is gone. Problem. Canvass the area the best I can, no sight of her vehicle whatsoever. Head up towards her house, get back to her residence, no vehicle, no nothing. Subject is gone. Preventable? No. Why? Because there was nowhere to park. And in Texas, unless you or your client owns the vehicle, you can't put a GPS unit on there. Further, there are some schools of thought that say, per federal law, you can't do it, period, without a court order. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to get involved in that. So suffice to say, we didn't have a GPS unit on the subject's vehicle, so surveillance was shot, surveillance went wrong. Those are the only stories that I'm going to leave you with today, simply because I don't want to extend too long. Probably have a few more surveillance gone wrong stories, maybe some surveillance gone right. If there are any questions that you have, if there are any stories that you would like to hear, any kind of cases that you're interested in, feel free to make a comment. If you liked what you see, please like it. If you really like what you see, please subscribe. Also, we have a Rumble page now under the Schaefer Files. Please go on ahead and check that out as well. Same videos, different platform. And as always, if you need investigative information or investigative help, feel free to reach out to us at dave@preferredintelligence.com or call us at 214-785-4504. Thank you.